hey, no matter what happens here, God has a plan for your life, and you've got a wife and children and a future that doesn't include anything regarding this building. They've come back and told me that. You telling me that was exactly what I needed to hear at the time.
All right, welcome to Resisting Pretense. This is a special episode with my friend Josh Busby, who is sitting in Scott's chair. Scott's out of town, and we wanted to have Josh as a guest anyway, and then it turned out that we were going to need someone to fill in, so you seemed as good as any.
Well, I'm certainly not going to be as sarcastic as Scott.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're going to be more? Or what?
He's not very sarcastic.
So the episode that we'd been kind of targeting to bring Josh into was an episode of talking about the way Christian faith kind of intersects with military service. And Josh was an active duty Marine. Now you're a contractor working with the Marine Corps, and we can say that, right?
We can say that.
Okay,
yes,
that's good. And so he's got a kind of two different views of kind of the life of a Christian in military service. And so I was excited about bringing Josh into the podcast. Plus, you're an avid podcast listener, right?
I love podcasts.
Yeah.
I didn't even sleep last night. I'm so excited. I fully expect to have 1 million views on this podcast.
All right, that's good. That's great. That'll be our best podcast ever. So
best podcast ever.
we can edit that.
I do that all the time.
We'll fix that in post.
I do that all the time.
Yeah. We say we'll fix that in post.
No.
We don't ever fix anything.
Raw.
I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe they fix stuff that I have no idea what they're fixing.
Maybe we'll challenge what they can fix.
All right. So our whole goal with resisting pretense is to have honest conversations about a life of faith in modern culture, and hopefully kind of inspire people to have conversations about faith in their daily lives. So, and we're going to be talking about something that is your daily life, this connection with military culture. But why don't we start a little bit with just your background? What's your spiritual story? The short version. We only have so much time.
The early years. My spiritual story, I have a boring testimony. I got saved when I was 5 and baptized when I was 5, and went to church my whole life. And I knew that Jesus loved me, and that's great. I loved him too. And spent most of my childhood learning, and it was easier for me to get out of school than it was to get out of church. And I enjoyed my life, and I enjoyed learning more about the Bible and learning more about God. And
is that boring or beautiful?
What do you mean?
Well, you said it's boring. Your story's
boring.
Well,
I mean, it's funny. I used to say, I've said that before, and this one, because I was impressed by this one guy's testimony, how the struggles he'd gone through all this stuff, and right, yeah, and I was just like, yeah, mine's boring, and he's like, man, I wish mine was yours, and I kind of put me in my place, and I've been very blessed. Doesn't mean I haven't had some hard times. I think that you go through phases in life, and
right.
a lot of my life I've been pretty self-righteous, and there's a description.
This is also Resisting Pretense, the confessional.
Yes, yeah. yes. But I've learned a lot and made a lot of mistakes. I love the phrase, the beautiful mess. It seems like the more I understand my life and the more I see other Christians and their walk and just people in general, we're all a beautiful mess. And I
like that too.
Thank God that that's what he loves about us. And that was backed up to me because I was watching a YouTube video today and Eminem used it in some lyrics. That was kind of
really
funny. Oh yeah. Beautiful mess over and over.
All right. And over.
All
right. So what do you do for fun? What's fun for Josh? What's like your go-to
sleep
stuff?
is fun.
Sleep is fun.
Peace and quiet. I love people. For the most part, I like real people. I'm a huge baseball guy. I love,
that's right. Yeah.
Yes, Cardinals
I should have
baseball.
expected
St.
that.
Louis, yes. That'll make you a fan for a lifetime when your dad's favorite team wins the World Series when you're 8 and you start watching it. So,
Oh, nice.
yes, that's me. Love baseball. I'm a super nerd. Love space. Love sci-fi.
Star Wars,
Lord of the Rings, just the whole stories. Very much. I do like podcasts a lot. I like to hear what people talk about, big things and complicated things. And
do you have a favorite, or is that hard to pick out?
Well, my favorite podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my favorite podcast is Jordan Peterson. I think he's
all right.
The way he dives into myth in all stories from that perspective, has actually taught me, has opened up the Bible to me in ways that I just never dreamed. And I don't mean to use that term myth like it's fake. I just mean the category of stories that tell a bigger story.
Right.
That's what I mean. So
cool. Well, let's get into your military background. Tell us about your life in the service.
I was in college looking for a job, a career path. My major wasn't going to do it for me, and I always wanted to be a pilot. The Navy's greatest recruiting tool is the movie Top Gun that's ever existed by far. And me and all my buddies walked into the recruiter's office because of that movie. And we wanted to be pilots and do the whole thing. And for me, I went to the University of Illinois, and while I was there, I was in flight school. Mm-hmm. They had an Institute of Aviation, and this guy one day in my sophomore year walked in his dress blues. Never occurred to me to be a Marine.
Really?
Ever. Never once.
Wow.
And this guy walked in his dress blues with his gold wings, and he was there for 5 minutes, asked to address the class, and all I remember him saying was flight guarantee. And I was like, yes, please. I'll be up there.
Now, did you want to hook him, or did you want to clean him and fry him?
Oh gosh. I wanted to be an unrestricted naval aviator, which is different than a fighter pilot. No, I did want to be a fighter pilot, but alas, I only had what we in the aviation community call 100 knot brain, so I flew Hueys, and it was great. I absolutely loved it. Had a great time. Made some lifelong friends that are as close to me as brothers, and the Marine Corps has been extremely good to me and my family. It gave me a place to serve in a brotherhood that I just can't imagine my life going any other way. So much so that my son is now a Marine, and he is fixing the type of helicopters that I flew, or at least the replacement version of that helicopter. But
so you saw some combat.
I did.
Is that something you're comfortable talking about?
I don't mind talking about it.
Man, we're not going to spend the whole time on it. That's notable. I think
it's hard.
You don't meet a combat pilot every time you turn a corner.
Every time you turn the corner, I'm on you.
That's true.
No, I served in combat. Yeah, in Iraq. I didn't go to Afghanistan. I have mixed emotions about it. It was the sense of camaraderie and teamwork and intensity was amazing. Mm-hmm. Did some things that were really good, did some things that were mess ups. I wasn't perfect. I wasn't the best guy, I would necessarily say. And I wouldn't say that my combat experience is equivalent to many others that served for a lot longer and saw a lot worse things than I did. And but it was something that I worked through in my later life, and it has shaped my later life in many ways. It was remarkable to be on a team doing your absolute job. You don't get to do that very often.
Yeah.
And I don't look back on that time and have terrible thoughts about what we were doing there and so on and so forth. I knew what I was doing there, and I knew what my buddies were doing there, and we were there for each other, and we did the best we could. And I leave the politics of it up to the politicians, the people who made those decisions, and God. So I did no more than I had to do my job, and that was it. So
yeah. So you got out for a while.
I did.
And then,
well, I got out. I got out in 2005 at the end of my enlistment. I couldn't fly anymore. I had a inner ear condition, wasn't able to fly anymore, and I didn't want to lap move and try something else.
Right.
Not sure that was the best decision. But within a year, in 2006, we moved to Yuma from Camp Pendleton. And, excuse me.
No.
And we've made a home here. Got 3 kids, and 2 of them are gone, and one of them's still at home. I really wish your kid and my kid would get in a good place to live. But anyway,
our sons are best friends.
Yeah, they have been since we got here.
Since they were like 2.
Yeah. In 2006, we moved here, and I had a traveling sales job until I got a job actually here 2 years ago, or for a couple of years. I was worked in the office at the church, and that's when Tom and I got to know each other, and it's been a friendship ever since that I really appreciate. But don't tell him.
All right.
And then one day I was at the church, and a guy who worked at the aviation weapons schoolhouse here on the air station said, "Hey, Josh, do you know anybody who might be interested in writing a flight schedule?" And I was like, "Oh man, me?" And he goes, "Yeah, I just didn't want to be the guy who stole the church's office manager." And I was like, "Yeah, I think I need to do this." And so I've been working there since 2009. Had the good fortune of my wife working there as well for 10 years, and she's doing something else now. But I walked into the building, and I knew half the building because they were all my peers. They were all my buddies. And
guys you'd flown with.
Yeah, they treated me like I never got out, and that has not changed in 15 years. So it's been absolutely a blessing. So
cool. And the shop that you work with is a training organization.
Yeah, that's Marine Aviation Weapons and Tactics Squadron 1.
Yep.
It was a place that in the 70s it's called Project 19. They decided to put it to standardize marine aviation, the weapons and tactics of marine aviation, because the mishap rate was so high. They wanted to make it safer, more standardized. Everybody knew what to expect, and it's really a world-class institution. I don't know that people realize what a gem they actually have tucked away at MCAS Yuma.
Yeah, twice a year we have people from all over the world coming in for special training events. It's a big deal. It's really cool.
We're more Top Gun than Top Gun is.
So how did your spiritual life either affect your military service, or vice versa, your military service affect your spiritual life? How did they intersect?
Well, I think I was raised with a sense of service for, not only love of God and service to mankind, but also love of my country and service to my country.
You're a good Midwest boy.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Grew up small town Illinois, and played baseball, made fun of everybody who didn't, and until I couldn't anymore, and then felt bad because they were probably making fun of me. But no, I grew up with that sense of wanting to serve my country. My dad was in the Air Force, and I fully intended to go into the military in some way. I tried to get into the Air Force Academy, and they laughed. Tried to get into the Naval Academy and almost made it, or at least I think I did. But God had a different plan, and this one worked out great. I had a great relationship with my recruiter. He was a Christian man, and it was really interesting. I didn't think about this till right now, but it was really interesting how he helped shape me as a future Marine officer. He was willing to talk about the hard questions of, what does it mean to be a Marine and be a Christian at the same time, and how that works. And he demonstrated how that worked very well.
Yeah.
And I was pretty, maybe even self-righteous, but outspoken about my faith when I, through most of my entire life. And probably annoyed my friends quite a bit sometimes, but I was a good designated driver until I wasn't anymore. I sure was popular on Friday night. Hey man, you drive for us? Yeah, sure. No, but I had a great time, and it's amazing how, whether it was college or the basic school or flight school or my squadrons, God has always put me in a place with someone else that I could walk with, another Christian man, serving alongside or in a mentor role or something like that, and that's just been true every step of the way.
Did you feel like that was hard to find or easy to find in that military community?
I wasn't even trying to find them. It just happened.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, I would guess, easy. That may not be everybody's story, but mine was.
Yeah.
And but I was also exposed to so many other people. I mean, what are the good points and the bad points? I was exposed to a bunch of other people. That's good and bad. I mean, all kinds of different ideas that had an impact on me. But I loved the journey through the Marine Corps. I absolutely loved it, and the people that I came across, no matter what happened. So.
Did you see any difference in the spiritual kind of openness because you were an officer, so in the officer ranks versus the enlisted ranks, do you feel like there was any difference in their openness to faith?
A difference? I don't think a difference.
Okay.
I think the biggest culture shock for me was that I had been very insulated by my own choice. I mean, my parents didn't let us watch movies, and they didn't, they weren't overprotective from influences in the world. I grew up knowing hard stories and hard things, and seeing hard things and stuff. We wanted to talk about them, and we did, and I think that helped prepare me in life. But when I got out of college and out of my church bubble and stuff, that I was kind of surrounded. I mean, I got exposed to some things in college, but it wasn't like the Marine Corps where I'm literally meeting people. I mean, I don't remember knowing an atheist, at least knowing an atheist before I got there, but I did once I got in the Marine Corps.
Right.
But I also remember just seeing real people act out Christianity a little bit differently than what my small town evangelical idea was.
Right.
And I learned new things, and some of them were good. Most of them were good and bad. But rarely was I around somebody who, I can't even think of an instance where I was around somebody who just despised what I thought. And in fact, most of the atheists, we had great discussions, and we sought each other out to discuss those kind of things. And we listened and learned from each other. And I think about those people fondly. I remember them. So
you said there were some good and bad influences. Do you think overall military service drives people toward looking for faith for answers, or do you feel like maybe it has more of the influence of pulling them away from maybe roots that they had? Do you think the scale tilts either way?
Well, I think both is true. I think that the Marine Corps definitely pulled me away from the roots I had established, and I don't know that from the roots that were in the ground under me, but I don't necessarily think that wasn't God doing that on purpose, because he wanted me planted somewhere else and doing something different.
Sure.
Yeah, it's going to stretch you. You're going to be tested. But the fact of the matter is, the Marine Corps, I think one of the things I love about the Marine Corps is it's one of the few places where adventure is left in the world. I mean, you think about it. There's no other place to explore. Well, I mean, you could make the argument to the ocean, but you can't just walk out your door and decide to go to the bottom of the ocean. You can't do that. But you could, 100 years ago or 200 years ago, you could load up your wagon or whatever and just go.
By the way, did you see the news that they think they may have found Amelia Earhart's plane?
I did see that.
Yeah. As an aviator, is that kind of like a cool little nugget of history, or is it kind of like, okay?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's cool. I wonder if they'll ever be able to prove it.
Right.
It's a more of a, I don't think about it as it's a piece of aviation history. Of course, that's important, but the fact. I mean, I look up to people like Amelia Earhart and Charles Lindbergh and things like that for the things that they accomplished, and the mystery is for mystery writers. And
Yeah. I read something that said it's 4,000 feet or meters. I can't remember which it said, but 4,000 feet or meters deeper than the Titanic wreck.
Oh gosh.
So the likelihood of getting down to it, I don't know if we have submersibles that can go 4,000 more feet.
And we could just talk to the aliens down there.
Kaiju.
Yeah. What was that movie? The Abyss? Yeah, that was a good movie. No, I don't. I hope they did find her, and I hope they can prove it. That'd be kind of cool.
That would be cool. Did you find, you said you were very vocal about your faith, maybe at times more vocal than some of your peers would have liked. Did you find people were open to conversations about faith? Or
oh yeah, but they were the best thing. Well, I mean, I don't know if it's the best thing, but one of the things that I remember specifically about it is they were open to it, and they would shred me if I didn't know what I was talking about.
Really?
Oh gosh, that's a humbling experience, and it's one of the best experiences I've ever had of where you had to know your stuff. Because if you didn't know your stuff, that's the thing about naval aviation, marine aviation. I mean, after every flight, they have a debrief. I say we. I did that, yes, but
you
those guys.
You qualify. You can say we.
Yeah, and these debriefs are brutal. I mean, they are just absolutely fact, and that's the way they should be. But I mean, there have been. It's rare, but I mean, there's fistfights that have broken out at these things before. But the best thing to do is take the criticism and make yourself better. And that's the kind of people you're dealing with. So if you don't know what you're talking about and you can't admit it, they will destroy you. But in being destroyed sometimes, I learned something and came back to the next discussion or whatever better prepared. And by doing that, by admitting that I was wrong, or by acknowledging that I was learning something, when they encountered a problem that they didn't know how to solve, they would come to me, and I had earned enough trust to do that, and I think that's really important. And I mean, I don't know that I eviscerated anybody. I was never the smartest cat in the room. I've always felt like I was in a learning position, but there was genuine friendship and camaraderie about it, and who knows, maybe I'm not one that thinks, oh my gosh, I was in that place for 3 years and I didn't lead anybody to Christ. Oh man. No, I'm a firm believer that the only one that can lead somebody to Christ is the Holy Spirit. It's my job to plant the seed and be whatever the Holy Spirit wants me to be to these people.
Right.
I think Christians often forget that we're not supposed to do his job. We're supposed to do the job that he gave us. And that may be different for me than it is for you.
Sure. So it's been start to present like 30 years.
Well, I went to OCS in 1994 and I got commissioned in 96. So 28 years, I guess. And then minus the 3 years. And I say that I've been associated with the Marine Corps for that long.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to think I'm claiming that I've been in, because I haven't. My life is way different now working for the Marines than it was. But
so on the spiritual dynamic of openness and to conversation and just maybe, kind of the amount of Christian people you saw in the Marine Corps, do you feel like there's been a change over the 30 years, or do you feel like it's remained fairly consistent?
I think it's somewhat consistent. I think that my little piece of the Marine Corps, it's a professional organization. The Motts One is a professional schoolhouse, and it's not perfect for all of its faults. I'm sure it has plenty of faults, and I'm constantly hearing, we could do it better. The Air Force does it this way. Top Gun does it this way. We should we should be doing this. This is totally messed up, and so on and so forth. But what we do is pretty extraordinary, and it's full of professionals who know how to behave themselves, and they know how to work with all types of people, and they're very human. And I'm blessed to be able to go in and just sit down and talk to people. And I've done that over the years where I can tell somebody's going through a hard time, and I catch them alone. I just want to sit down and talk to them. And I can't tell you how many times I've been able to say something simple like, hey, no matter what happens here, God has a plan for your life, and you've got a wife and children and a future that doesn't include anything regarding this building. And they've come back and told me that. You telling me that was exactly what I needed to hear at the time.
There are a lot of guys that, because it's such a, you, in a sense, you sign your life over when you're active duty. Is there difficulty with active duty military Marines in particular, kind of not being able to see themselves outside of that role?
Oh, outside of the Marine Corps?
Yeah.
No, I think there's a whole bunch of guys who look at it constantly. There's times that there's times that the force feels pretty good, and there's times that the force is restless, and it goes back and forth. It constantly ebbs and flows. The Marine Corps will, they'll not be competitive with outside options sometimes, and then they'll roll in and be super competitive, and everybody wants to stay in, or it's hard. It's really hard for guys, and these are not necessarily things that the Marine Corps can do better or worse. I mean, they're transitioning from the Harrier and F-18 to the F-35, and that some people are left out of that, and there's no good way to just make that easy transition for everybody.
There's a distinctive Marine phrase that I've never heard in the other services, but I'm like, as a person in Yuma, I'm far more familiar with the Marine Corps than anywhere else. But the once a Marine, always a Marine.
Oh yeah.
Do you know if there's an equivalent in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force? Is there that mindset that, like, once you've served in this, like, you're always a part of this? Do they have the same mindset in other branches?
I'm a million jokes went through my mind. And every Marine listening to this is like,
Marine an opportunity to boast a little bit.
Call the Air Force the UPS, that kind of thing. But I don't honestly know. That's probably.
I'd have to ask them.
Yeah, you'd have to ask them. There, I'm kind of live in my bubble, and I know about the Marine Corps. There's plenty of camaraderie, I'm sure, among brothers in arms. I mean, my gosh, you can see it from, certainly if you've gone through something like combat. Those are just people you don't ever forget. And it's, I got together a couple years ago with what we call the combat crew. So when we fought as sections. The Hueys fought as sections, the Cobras fought as divisions, and the type of squadron I was in, there were Cobras, which are gunships, and Hueys, which are your iconic Vietnam
transport.
Don't ever say that again.
Don't say that again? Okay. No. Sorry.
Most versatile airplane in the world is actually what you're looking for from now on.
I was just thinking Air Cav from We Were Soldiers. That's
well, yeah, that's the
head.
One. So
yeah.
But I mean, we could do everything. We were gunships. We were command and control. We could transport a very limited amount of weight. But we'd kid each other all the time. But we fought in sections, and so that would be 2 Hueys. So it was 4 pilots, or 2 pilots per aircraft and 2 aircrew per aircraft, and those are the guys doing the door guns. And we weren't able to. The pilots all got to get 3 out of the. It was 3 of us. No, it was only 2 of us, and there was another Huey pilot that came. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But we were all in the same squadron, and we had all been in combat together, and you just fall back into exactly the same roles and such that you had before. And well, I mean, not roles, but you just it's like you haven't spent any time away at all. You just roll right back in, and that's true with all marine aviation. I mean, Moss is an interesting place where people come and go, and during our school, WTI, I'm fairly grumpy, evidently. People claim I am because I'm, I'm working fairly hard during the WTI course anyway. And, people just come stand at my desk and they're got a big smile on their face. And I look up, I'm like, what? They're like, hey, haven't seen you in 5 years. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. How's it going? You just fall back into the way it was. I don't know if your mind just goes back there but it takes you back and these are your brothers, and it's not an awkward reunion typically.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, and you could answer either side of this, in whichever order you want, but what have been the biggest challenges to your faith that are related to your service? And what have been maybe some of the biggest boosts or, benefits to your faith that are connected to your service?
That's hard to answer.
Yeah, and I didn't prep you with this question. I just thought of it now. So,
well, I mean, all of us, I don't really hear people talk about it all that much, and I don't know, it seemed kind of funny mentioning it, but I remember when we first crossed the line into Iraq. I knew I didn't really know what to expect, but and maybe other people didn't feel this way, but the few that I've talked to felt similar. I knew that my brain knew that there weren't going to be a wall of bullets when I crossed the line into Iraq.
Right.
But my body
was braced for it.
Did not believe that.
Wow.
And I remember it was absolutely silent. I mean, here we are underneath a rotor blade. Everything is loud, but you could hear people breathing over the microphone. I mean, it was just
as you're flying
quiet
into the country.
Yeah, we were just silent. And I mean, the tension, you could feel it. And my body was I was on the controls. I was the co-pilot, but my aircraft commander was also the section leader, so he typically let me fly. And I was squeezed. I realized I was just squeezing the black out of the controls, and so I tried to relax and stuff. And then of course we made it in, and a few minutes later it's like, okay, everything's fine. And then of course we go a little bit farther and we land at this forward operating base that guys are playing volleyball, and I mean, just
like Top Gun.
Yeah, it's just no, they weren't playing volleyball, but I mean, they were moving around and people were doing things, and some people were over there smoking and eating chow, and people doing normal things, and you're like, okay, we can do this. And it was, I mean, I remember that was really tense, but I remember in those moments as we're approaching, thinking about my mortality, like this could be it. And that was something. As far as in that moment, was your faith a comfort, or did you feel, did it prompt like, gosh, I'm not where I want to be? You mean spiritually where I want to be?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, the old Free Methodist in me came out. It was like, wait a minute, what have we not confessed? But no, it was, I don't know. It was one of the most real feelings I've ever had. It wasn't that I didn't believe that if we were to die, I was going to, not be with Christ, but it was that I would be leaving my wife and my kids, and I would, and not just me, but the rest of the crew. And so it just, I mean,
kind of raised the stakes for trust in God to take
and then
care
of course
you, take care of your family.
Then of course we crossed the line and nothing happened, and I mean we actually didn't get into a fight for a couple of days, and so and the first fight was a little bit like that as well. But then the good part is that when you're in the actual attack, you can fall into what you're doing and the where you need to be looking and anticipating what's coming next, and it's a little bit easier, I think, in that regard, because you're You're actually doing something other than just holding the controls, flying straight and level, going, I can see for 150 miles, but I'm convinced that there's going to be a wall of bullets. There's nothing there. And there's nothing there. One of my favorite passages in the Bible is when God tells Abraham to leave the city of Ur, like get your people and go to this land that I will show you.
Yeah.
And I got to see that land. And it was amazing. And God wouldn't have had to tell me twice, because that place was a desert that makes Yuma look like a grass field. Terrible. There are parts of Iraq that are beautiful, yes, but that looked like Tatooine from Star Wars. Yeah.
Wow.
It was that desolate.
What about challenges? How did your service challenge your faith?
Well, I mean, I think in a great way. It's one of the biggest challenges was the other people challenging me to actually know what I was talking about. Being on the adventure. We live in a society that, and you and I have talked about this before, but we live in such an affluent society. We invent problems for ourselves because we just don't have many. Mm-hmm. Now, that's a problem in and of itself that we need to solve, but we need to go find the great adventure of our lives. And that is not it's not just outside our door or just out, just over the hill like it used to be, that adventure. We got to look for it a little bit. And so those challenges, my wife and I have a saying, I don't say I love you anyway. I say I love you because of all the good and all the bad, because that's the sum of all of it is who she is. And the sum of all of it is who I am. And if you're going to use that, you have to pay me 25 cents every time you use it. So I've got a patent.
Nice. I think I want to move to that last question I gave you. And it's dangerous because we might get another 30 minutes of Josh teaching us the important lessons for our lives, but
you've given me a microphone and the ability to reach millions of people.
So what do you wish Christians, followers of Jesus, could know or experience from what you've learned serving as a Marine?
The Marine Corps is like anything else. You will get out of it what you put into it. That's true. I think that's true in some respects about our faith. It's true in some respects about our relationships, most respects about our relationships, I think.
Yes, absolutely. In both counts. Yeah.
Yeah. You can have a terrible experience in the Marine Corps. You can have a terrible experience serving your country. But the common denominator in all of that is you and what you've decided to do. The funny part about the Marine Corps is that I had a blast doing some of the worst and stupidest and not fun things ever because of the attitude that I had and the people I was with. And I mean, I can do anything if I'm with somebody I really like to be around. It's great.
Yeah.
And that's how the Marine Corps is. And I think, especially in our, we have a very politically charged environment in this country, and people think of, some people think that the government can do no wrong and the military can do no wrong. And some people think that the government can't do anything right. And the military is infested with awful people teaching awful things. And that's just not true. They're just people. And if we demonstrate God's love to them, if we are the friend that we want to them, if we love them like we love ourselves, I think that it'll be an extremely rewarding experience. And I think other piece of advice, this is advice I gave to my son, always volunteer for everything.
Really?
Oh yeah. I was like, if your sergeant major walks in and says, I need some volunteers on a Friday afternoon, I need some volunteers for this weekend, just do it. Guaranteed. because it will probably be something that's stupid and you don't like, and you'll do it with one of your buddies. You'll never do it alone. You'll do it with one of your buddies, and you'll make a new friend, or you'll get a closer tie, or you'll have great stories no matter what. And the worse it is, the better story you'll have. And wait till you're a 50-year-old old coot like me, and then you can really embellish the story. It'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Or you'll end up getting the best deal ever, and they'll never tell you what it's going to be.
Mm.
Or you end up getting to do this great and awesome thing that you never dreamed you'd be able to do.
It's kind of it's a win-win. You either get like a bonding, building, funny story to tell, or you get an incredible experience.
And you're the guy who volunteers.
Mm.
You're the guy that the command can count on, and he's going to want to give a good deal to. I heard, I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard back in the 90s when they were reshooting some Star Wars scenes, that they came to base and they said, hey, we need some extras. Can we use some of the Marines? And there was a unit that got it, and the sergeant major came in and said, I need some volunteers. You got to be on a bus at 4:00 tomorrow morning on Friday afternoon.
That's all he told them.
That's all he told them. And when they got there, those guys got into stormtrooper costumes. Now, I don't know if that's actually true, but it's that kind of thing that you just would be like, no way. Or you'll meet this famous person or something. And it happens. So you should always volunteer.
Well, that's kind of part of like a thread throughout this whole conversation was chasing a great adventure.
Yes.
And you're not going to chase a great adventure sitting on the couch.
No. Or
so you gotta say yes.
At those screens. Oh, yeah.
You got to say yes to things you don't know what they're going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
There's something about the great adventure that will do you so much more good than sitting at a screen, even studying and sitting at a screen. I mean, you can be doing good things looking at your computer, and I'm no stranger to a computer or a phone or, apps and wasting time on it. Netflix. I'm no stranger to it, but you can't do better than actually getting your head up and going outside and doing stuff. And so I guess that's one criticism I have of the Marine Corps. I wish there was more training and less sitting in the office. I'm sure some units are better than others about that, but the Marines should be outside all the time training. They're never happier than when they're training, and they don't get in trouble when they're training.
I love it. All right, I'll give you one last shot. Anything you want to add?
I don't feel like I've talked very much, so no. No. I don't have any. I do enjoy this podcast. I've listened to it a few times.
All right, thank you.
I suffered through the first one where you tried to explain what resisting pretense meant. I hope that I have not been pretentious at all.
No.
However,
no, you caught the spirit of things when you're like, yeah, I was probably a little. What you didn't use judgmental. What word did you?
Oh, self-righteous.
Self-righteous, yeah.
I wielded self-righteous. I'm way better at it than anybody I know. I just don't. I see how disgusting it is.
That's exactly the kind of humility that I think if Christian people are willing to say, yeah, I know I struggle in this area and I'm working on it. Like, we need more of that, I think, in our approach to culture.
I was so good at it, I could make humility look self-righteous.
But yeah, I think that's the sweet spot, not just of not being pretentious, but of us having a meaningful impact on our culture. Like if we can't be real, why bother?
Yeah, and no greater adventure than being a husband and a dad. Just go be it.
That's awesome.
Don't sit around and do nothing.
We'll leave it there. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.